Taming the High Cost of College, Episode 63.
You have kids, they grow up, and before you know it, it's time to plan for college.
Where do you start?
How much is it going to cost?
Will you qualify for financial aid?
Should you be looking into scholarships?
When will you be able to retire?
What about student loans?
The list of questions is never ending. The good news is, all the answers are right here. Welcome to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Here is your host, certified financial planner, Brad Baldridge.
Hello, and welcome to Taming the High Cost of College. I'm your host, Brad Baldridge. Today we have a great interview with Lydia Fayal. She is the co-founder of AdmitSee, a great website that's out there that helps families understand what it takes to get accepted at a particular college. And it also provides some income opportunities once you are accepted to college. So what AdmitSee does is it allows you to look at the admissions portfolios of students that have already been admitted and are now students at a particular university. So if you want to see what a bunch of students at Boston College look like when they were admitted, they have available their admissions package, their test scores and their essays and that kind of stuff. So it's a great opportunity for you to understand what you're up against. On top of that, you can actually get tutoring and other help from these students that are willing to, for a fee, provide a little bit of time, answer questions or review essays and that kind of thing. So I think it's a great website, and I talked about it a little bit a few episodes ago. Another great thing that it's doing is it's getting the information out where we normally wouldn't have it. So generally, to have a good understanding of what it takes to be admitted to a particular college, that's very much insider information. Only the people at the college and a few admissions consultants might really understand what it takes for any particular college. Now that data is more and more available out there, so everybody can see it if you're willing to spend some time at some of these websites. So I think this is a great website for a lot of families, especially if you're considering the more competitive schools out there. So let's go ahead and jump into the interview. As always, the show notes are available at tamingthehighcostofcollege/63. So let's go ahead and jump in. All right, today I'm sitting down with Lydia Fayal. She is the founder of AdmitSee.com, which is a great website to help students understand the application process. Welcome, Lydia.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Hey, before we jump into the details of your site, let's talk a little bit about how you came to get involved in what you're doing and a little bit of your background.
Sure. So we started this site 2 years ago. We actually founded the site while we were in grad school at the University of Pennsylvania. I founded it with a classmate of mine. And our goal was to really bring transparency to the college and grad school application process. Obviously we had just gone through that when we were applying to grad school. And I have 4 younger siblings, so I'd helped them apply to college. And just realized that over the past 10 years since I had myself applied to undergrad, the process has become that much more complicated in terms of how many essays you have to write, how many schools students are applying to, but the actual sort of, offerings and resources haven't improved. And so what we wanted to do is provide a way for high school students to actually connect to the college students who are at their dream schools and provide them with access to successful college application essays and mentoring from, students who are at the schools they want to apply to. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of like having a big brother or big sister, at their dream school. And yeah, I've been going strong for 2 years. Very excited about it.
All right, great. Yeah, so I've been to the website and looked around a little bit. So can you give us a kind of a thumbnail sketch of what's at the website and kind of how it works?
Sure. So high school students, when they come to the site, they can browse the application files of successful students at the schools they're applying to. They can filter by test scores, by GPA, to really see where students similar to them have been accepted and actually see sort of like the full sort of extracurricular resume, the essays, and answers to advice questions of students who are similar to them, and see kind of really like what it takes to get in. And you can sort of browsing is totally free. If you want to view the full essays, you can, you pay a few bucks, and then that money actually gets paid to the college student who shared their information. So this is a way for college students to really sort of like make some extra beer money by sharing their information. The college students, they get $10 up front, and then they get $2 every time somebody views their full profile. And on top of that, on top of just viewing all of this content, what students can do is they can sign up to have a college student serve as their mentor, which means they message them through the site and they can ask them questions, about other schools that they applied to, their opinion, why they chose one school over the other. And they can submit them their college application essays and get feedback on it. So it's a way for, say you're writing an essay about like why you want to go to Georgetown. Well, here's a way for you to get 3 current students at Georgetown feedback on your essay about why you want to go there, and really ask them like, hey, what are like you 3 guys, you actually go here. Like, what do you think of this? Do you think that like this, sounds earnest, or, so, is this something that, what else am I missing? What else don't I know about Georgetown in terms of their culture that like maybe I want to be thinking about?
All right, great. So if I'm a parent of a student, and I just want to try and give you an example so make sure I understand. But if I'm a parent of a student, let's say they're considering, 3 of the top higher end New York schools as an example.
Mm-hmm.
And we saying, well, geez, we don't really know what it takes to get accepted at Columbia compared to Fordham, compared to, whatever, NYU, let's say.
NYU, yeah.
So we can go to your site and we can look up current students that are there and then look at their application and their essay and their test scores and get a feel for what they did and how they did it in order to be accepted. Is that a fair statement?
Exactly. We have over 400 application files of students accepted to each of those schools. And so, you'll really be able to see the comparison between schools, and then, you purchase as a member, you sort of sign up for there are different tiers based on how many schools you're interested in looking at the full application files for, the full essays. So, you can choose like 3 or 5 schools, and that way you can figure out, looking at a few hundred of the application files of students who were accepted just from last year, who are students who are very similar to your son or daughter. And you can get it really a sense of like, okay, like here's my son's SAT score. Let's look at these 3 schools, but filter by that SAT score and see just, like how many of these students ended up being accepted to those schools. Like, are there a lot who are getting accepted to Columbia? Are there a lot who are getting accepted to NYU? And Fordham generally, there's a lot of overlap in terms of the students who apply to NYU, and Columbia also apply to Fordham. But yeah, and really just see like, okay, of those students, then what did their extracurricular resumes look like? Like how robust were they? How many awards did they have? How does your son or daughter compare to those students? And then, really also just learning sort of what makes for amazing application essays to set those students apart. We encourage students, students are going on our site as early as freshman and sophomore years. They kind of to get a sense of really like how much they should be involved in extracurriculars and how much they should do over the summer. But, by senior year, if your son's applying right now to school, it's also just a way to really learn, like you have to write really good application essays now to stand out from the pack. And if you write an amazing essay, especially for the top tier schools, it could actually be a huge boost and make up for, lower test scores or lower grades.
Okay. Yeah, great. So I can see, families out there where maybe their son or daughter is one of the few kids in the, the whole town or even the whole county that's considering, applying to a higher end school. So
yeah,
it helps you not be alone in the process.
Exactly. I mean, that was a huge inspiration for me. And also my co-founder, both of us went to public high schools, and, we were applying to top undergrad schools where you don't have a lot of people. Like I went to Johns Hopkins undergrad, and I don't believe anyone from my high school had ever gone to Johns Hopkins before. And so when you're trying to get help from guidance counselors there, the guidance counselor also is usually spread pretty thin. Like they're most of their time is sucked up dealing with the kids who, they're trying to make sure that they don't drop out of high school. They're not necessarily able to spend a lot of time with the students to help them with their college application process. But here you have this, and you can realize oh, hey, here are other students who are applying from, who got into the schools I'm applying to from the same state as me, from the same background, who have the same interests. And it's really like a way to sort of also see sort of like what the student body looks like. You get like all these glossy brochures of schools and just see pictures of buildings and everything kind of looks the same. But now you see the real faces. Like you actually see the faces, the profile pictures of, thousands of students. And you can get a sense of really like what the student body looks like. And, and we have a lot of the people who are mentors on our site who actually, after they, have been talking to students, mentoring with them, they end up, becoming Facebook friends. And what we've heard from last year is, I actually, people are going to their college and it's like they go there and they already feel like they have a friend at the school they're going to. So that's really exciting.
Oh yeah, that would be a added benefit. So, right. And so that's kind of the next step. If you want to, after you've viewed profiles, you can choose to start a mentor-mentee relationship in addition. And then I guess it's an opportunity. Could you like interview that person then a little bit and say, well, what do you like about the school?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's, that's right now it's done sort of like on a monthly basis, but it actually will be shifted over to a weekly basis starting next Monday where you can choose a bunch of different mentors and you sign up just to be able to talk to them as much as you want for a week and you can keep talking to them if you want to go beyond that. But a lot of times people just want to kind of like touch base with like 5 to 10 people in a given week who are at different schools they're interested in applying to. And you message them your questions. They have to respond to you within 24 hours. And it's kind of like you think of how like LinkedIn InMail works where you are sending people messages through LinkedIn. But here's a way for you to do it where it's like before you have a network, before you have a LinkedIn network where you can have people answer your questions about like, what do you think of this? This is a way for the high school student to be sort of completely anonymous. Like the high school student, they're not sharing any of their information. They're very protected. And they're, the college student, they have their picture up and they're like verified by school ID, but their name is also hidden. So there's like that level of protection where, like unless they actually give the student their name through mentorship, they're able to just, have a kind of like an interview and feel like, hey, like I can really ask as many questions as I want because like I feel like a little bit more anonymous. It's kind of like it's a step above forums, but a step below sort of feeling like you're very exposed, which is important to high school students and college students because like I feel like you don't want to with your full essays and everything out there, you don't necessarily want your name attached. You don't want to be like Googleable.
Right.
And you want to make sure like, if you're talking to people you don't know, you don't want them to be able to see your name unless you want to give it to them.
Right. I think makes sense. So then that's an opportunity then for, I guess, seniors and juniors in high school right now, 2 or 3 years from now, they can jump on the other side of the fence and help the next class that's coming up. Is that
exactly? I mean, it's students helping students, and like what you can do now too is you can fill out a profile as a high school student as you're starting to sort of gather your information. Even like we have questions for freshmen, sophomores, everything. Where all the way through you're kind of feeling like what you're doing in school and you're answering sort of questions to get you starting to think about like what could be a really amazing like essay that you'd have to write down the road because you could have to write like literally 3 essays for every school you apply to. So we help you with that, and then when you get accepted you'll be able to just hit, I'm now an accepted student. These were the schools I was accepted to. And it's, like fireworks, hooray, you're now an admit and you can switch your profile over to the admit side and start making money. And so it's, a way for you to start to actually, just make some money from this sharing. And you get $10 up front plus $2 every time somebody views your profile. And you get $7 for each person who you answer questions to in a given week. And so there's just it's a great way for you to make money when you're on the other side.
okay? So what's the time commitment if you're a mentor and you have a mentee, and obviously you're getting $7? So that means you're working a half an hour with that student, or an hour, or is there a limit, or is it just a couple quick questions, or
So
what's the expectation for a mentor-mentee relationship?
It's per week. So it's usually less than an hour of just kind of like responding to quick questions. And then if the mentee wants you to review their essay and provide feedback, it's an additional $20 fee for the high school student. They submit the essay and you answer. You provide notes on it and like your feedback and thoughts on it. And so that's where you actually get an additional $20 just because like that's a little bit more time intensive versus kind of just like responding to, you can, respond to the emails on your phone where it goes through the platform where you can just go onto the site and answer a few questions. So yeah, we try and, make sure that your time commitment is less than an hour for the $7, but you're also getting the $2 every time somebody views your profile, and that's no additional time commitment for you. That's just money that keeps coming in every time a member views your full profile with your essays and everything else. So being a mentor in a lot of ways is also just it makes a lot more people unlock your profile because they're considering having you as a mentor. So it helps in a lot of ways sort of sell that side.
Yes.
But yeah, everything for us is about keeping the price really low so that this is a way for students who can't necessarily afford like a college consultant to be able just to get a lot of like near peer advice at a very low cost.
Okay. Yeah. That everything I hear sounds great to me. So now what about the number of colleges on the site? I mean, obviously the big names are out there. I've kind of looked around the Ivy League and, other top schools. But what about like local state schools and that kind of stuff? Is there data there as well, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, we have right now, technically we have 890 different universities represented on the site, are all four-year universities. And, they're only, I think it's like, you might know this better than I do, but I forget how many total there are in the US, but I think it's around like 2,000. Obviously, like our numbers are very concentrated. Our school and the application files are very concentrated at the top 50 to 100 universities. The reason for that more than anything is because those are the schools where we were able to get campus reps first. We have a very robust campus rep program of of interns getting other students to put their application files on the site. And so, since we're a new company, most of our like the hundreds of application files we have at each school, they came from really sort of word of mouth and working with those individual colleges. Now that we've gotten into those schools and we're working with a lot more like high school students now, the high school students, because they're applying to a wider variety, and especially the schools that we provide free access to like charter schools, to public high schools. So if you're a student and you can't pay for our site, even if it's around like $75 usually that people are paying, even if $75 is a lot of money, you can go through your guidance counselor or a teacher, and if you can get your teacher or guidance counselor to talk to us, we'll provide free $100 in free credits to like all the students in your class. So that's something where, as we do that more and more, you have a lot more students applying to schools that are not necessarily in the top 200. And we'll be getting those application files next year and really expand into the schools that are further down because of the high school students who have created high school profiles that are now become admit profiles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. So I guess one of the big benefits that I see to this from a parent and student side of things is colleges have been very much a black box. You get a little bit of data, but it's not real clear about what it takes to get accepted. And you only get a limited number. Well, I talked to a neighbor who applied there. I talked to a friend that applied there, and now we're going to apply there. But we don't have enough data to really say, well, here's where the line in the sand typically is.
And I think the data that is out there from colleges is very misleading. Even sort of like you look at what the numbers are and whatnot on like US News rankings, and so much of that has to do with like colleges knowing that their ranking is dependent on being this SAT score versus this to show that they're more competitive. And you kind of have to weed through that data that like the colleges are doing to improve their rankings versus, and you understand, okay, but like who actually gets in, who actually gets accepted. And so for instance, like, yes, the average SAT score, might be this range overall. But if you apply early decisions, so if you apply like before November 1st for a lot of these schools that are binding, it's like getting a 150-point boost on the SATs. I mean, it's a much lower threshold that you need to, to hit. And so it's getting all of that data that, is actually coming from the students who were accepted last year versus coming from the colleges that, kind of play a numbers game. Like they'll accept students even though they know that they won't won't attend there, but they accept them because they have like perfect SAT scores and they need to boost that. So it's just trying to really get a better sense of like who's actually accepted and who's attending all of these schools.
Right. So is there any additional information? Obviously, you're focusing a lot on the admission side of things. Do you talk at all or have any data on scholarships or any other information?
Yeah. So what we have our admit profiles. They also contain answers to various advice questions. Those include sort of like, how did you navigate the financial aid process? Like, did you apply for any scholarships? So we're collecting a lot more information on that. And, we're actually working on partnerships with scholarship and financial aid services so that we can start incorporating that more into our site and help students guide them through that process. We're still like in the very early stages of that, so it's not quite available. But one thing we do offer is when you register for the site as a high school senior or as a college student, you're automatically entered in our $1,000 scholarship giveaway, where we give away $1,000 every single month to a new user. So, hey, if nothing else, all you have to do is kind of click the button to connect with Facebook, and it's totally free, and you might, be our winner for the $1,000 scholarship.
Yeah. Well, that would be a good thing for most students.
Yeah.
So
we're trying to just give them give a lot of stuff away right now to just we just closed like our round of fundraising with VCs. So we're like, hey, like let's do more where we can like actually like give some back to the students. We're doing a lot of like scholarship giveaways and an iPad and Apple Apple Watch giveaways to be able to sort of like give our users, like thank them for being awesome and helping us grow.
Right. So I noticed on some of the information that you sent, hiring private consultants to help with the admissions process.
Mm-hmm.
You had a statistic here that said 26% of high achieving students hire a private consultant.
Yeah, that's according to the Independent Education Consultant Association. I feel like it's probably on the high side. It seems high, but the more students I talk to, the more I think maybe that's actually accurate. And the way that they define high achieving students is it's any student who's scoring at or above the 70th percentile on standardized tests. So if you're scoring at or above 70th percentile on the ACT or the SAT, 26% of those students are now supposedly hiring an outside consultant to help them figure out which schools to apply to and help them with their application process and application essays. And the average price of a private consultant is over $4,000. And in cities, it can go up to $40,000, $50,000. So that's sort of the prohibitively expensive side that, a lot of our users, we end up sort of having the peer-to-peer alternative there for students who wouldn't be able to afford it.
Right.
We're not going to be able to be like, oh yes, we're doing something better or replacing college consultants, but we do have some, it's a peer-to-peer alternative that's affordable. And it's also an add-on for students who can afford a college consultant.
Right. And I guess that's what I was thinking is it fits well as an add-on in addition to a consultant or a replacement for a consultant if you can't afford one.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's, like if you can afford a college consultant, what those students usually do on the site. We work with a lot of college consultants. They provide expert advice on our blog. We work with a lot of, especially former college admissions officers who are now consultants. So like people who were in the admissions office at Dartmouth, at Reed, at UVA. They actually now write articles for us. And what college consultants often do is they have their students come on the site, and that helps manage parents' expectations about where their student should apply. And it also gives them a very sort of like a good base of like, hey, you're writing an essay about, in one case that recently came up, is you're writing an essay about the loss of your father. So a student was writing about how their father passed away. And the student was really struggling about, they just didn't want to come off as another sob story. And the college consultant who we were working with actually recommended AdmitSee as, here you can actually search in the keyword search in the essays, and you can find essays on that topic. And we actually also put together a package of 10 of essays on the loss of a family member. so that, the student would have a better sort of basis of like, this is how other people have tackled it. And it makes the college consultant's job easier. And it also gives the student a little bit more, confidence in how to attack such a difficult and, upsetting subject.
Absolutely. So if you're working with giving advice to a parent, what can they expect as far as how many colleges should they apply to? What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, so I think it's gone up a lot in recent years. We see right now, we see like 44% of the students in our user base apply to 7+ colleges. And I mean, the reason we sort of looked at 7+ colleges is because the New York Times, said like in 1990, only 9% of students applied to 7+ colleges. And then in 2011, they came out and they said now it's 25% who apply to 7+ colleges. And so then we kind of looked at like, well, what about last year with all the application files, we have close to 50,000 application files on our site. And we realized that 44% of students apply to 7+ colleges. So it's if you're looking at schools, you really do want to apply to, 3 reach schools, like 3 target schools, target being sort of schools that are really sort of like in your range. You see a lot of students who are similar to you are accepted there. And you want to apply to, at least 1 or 2 safety schools. So, it's good to apply to at least 7 or 8 schools. And what I find fascinating is that students who who are coming from private high schools are applying to significantly more colleges. And we're still trying to figure out, is that a money thing? Is it just the cost of applying to colleges since it's getting so high now? Or like, is it because they have just better access to information and realize that they should be applying to more schools? So yeah, I mean, just if your student is applying from a public high school and the guidance counselor says you only need to apply to like 3 or 4 schools, you're fine. Like I would advise against that. Like add a few schools.
Right, and I think it really boils down to how many schools are in the reach category and how many are in the safety category. Because if you apply to 7 or 8 reach schools, that's still not enough because they're all reach and you could essentially be denied at every single one of them or not get what you need on the financial side. Whereas,
exactly. And that's something, if financial aid is a big concern for you, then it does help to apply to more schools because you can also potentially leverage a financial aid package that you get from one school, with another school that's like a similar ranking and be like, look, like, I really want to attend your college, but this school is offering me this, like, can you match it? And a lot of times, like they're more likely to if you bring that to them. So if it's a money thing, that's another reason, try and get waivers so you don't need to pay the application fees to school, but apply to more schools.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I appreciate all the great information you provided. I guess before I let you go, can you give us any information on how people can get a hold of you and or your website and learn more?
Sure. So the website is AdmitSee.com. So admit, AdmitSee.com. So it's sort of like you see the admits, you see the people who are admitted. And they can get a hold of me just by emailing Lydia at AdmitSee.com. If you go to our How It Works About page, our team information is there and includes our email addresses and there's contact pages. We also have a live chat on our site. So if you just go to AdmitSee.com and you want to chat with an AdmitSee employee, who knows, you might get me. We alternate to make sure that we're really staying close with our customer base.
All right. Well, great. I really appreciate all the great information, and we'll put all this information in the show notes so that you can, if you're driving or exercising, you can hit our website at Taming the High Cost of College, and you'll be able to click through directly to these websites.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, Brad. Have a great day.
Thank you. All right. That was a great interview with Lydia. As always, we appreciate it if you give us comments or leave us a review in iTunes that help us get found in the search engines, etc. If you want to get show notes, they're available at tamingthehighcostofcollege/63, and that's where all the information on this interview will be, the links, etc. If you're new to podcasting and you want to understand how to take advantage of podcasting, I encourage you to learn more about it. If you're listening to this directly on the website, that's certainly one way to listen. But in addition, you can download podcasts into your smartphone or iPad or other devices. And that allows you to listen at your convenience, whether it's in the car or while you're exercising. And it's a great way, I think, for people to learn and get plugged in. One of my recommendations for families is to get plugged in and learn about colleges. And one way that you can do that is to listen to podcasts. That's how I learn things that I want to learn about as well. Learning, Facebook or other advertising techniques or things that I want to learn about. I'm able to plug into podcasts, listen to them while I'm driving, etc. And that way my drive time is more productive. I listen to what exactly I want instead of what happens to be available on the radio. So if you're new to podcasting and you want to check out and learn more, or ask your student to help you, you can use iTunes, you can use apps on your phones. There's lots of great ways for you to listen to podcasts kind of on demand on your schedule as you see fit. All right, that's all we have for today. We will see you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Taming the High Cost of College podcast. Now it's time for you to take action. Head to tamingthehighcostofcollege.com for show notes, bonus content, and to leave feedback for Brad. The next step on your college journey starts now.
Brad Baldridge is a registered representative of Cambridge Investment Research and an investment advisor representative of Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. Securities are offered through Cambridge Investment Research Incorporated, a broker-dealer and member of FINRA and SIPC. Brad owns two companies, Baldridge Wealth Management and Baldridge College Solutions. The Baldridge companies are not affiliated with Cambridge Investment Research.